Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it is making progress on the return of hostages held captive in Gaza. Hopes mounted on Tuesday that dozens of hostages seized by Hamas could be released from war-torn Gaza after the group's leader said a truce agreement with Israel was in sight. According to sources, the tentative agreement would include an exchange of hostages and Palestinian prisoners, along with a 5-day truce. The deal tabled is comprised of a complete ceasefire on the ground in the Gaza Strip and an end to Israeli airstrikes over the Palestinian territory, except in the north, where they would only halt for 6 hours daily, as sources from the allied militant group said.
יעד שני, החזרת החטופים. אנחנו מתקדמים. אני לא חושב שכדאי להכביר מילים אפילו לא ברגע הזה, אבל אני מקווה שיהיו בשורות טובות בקרוב. יעד שלישי.
Let's also tell you that negotiations to free hostages seized in Hamas on October 7th attacks on Israel at their closest point to a deal and have reached the final stage, according to Qatar, which serves as a mediator. Qatar has helped broker talks aimed to freeing some of the 240 hostages in return for a temporary ceasefire, a mediation effort that has so far led to the release of 4 hostages. Israel has vowed to destroy Hamas in response to the October 7th attacks, which Israeli officials say killed at least 1,200 people, most of them civilians. Joining me to further discuss this is Godson, a political and foreign affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time, Godson.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being with you again this evening, Mr. Dapo. It's my humble honor to share this platform with you again.
All right, great. Now, with over 13,000 dead and premature babies having to be taken to Egypt for proper care, what can you say about the current humanitarian situation in Gaza following Israel's continued bombardment of the region?
Obviously, it's appalling. It's inhuman. It's unacceptable situation. In the real world, in a modern society, such situation shouldn't be acknowledged or being appraised by anyone around the world. And this is a very, very difficult moment in the modern day society. We all know that the situation happening at this very moment in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank is something that is not acceptable among every reasonable and rational humanity around the world. People being used to pay a price of a silly and misjudged actions of a so-called prescribed terrorist group or a guerrilla body called the Hamas, which is an offshoot of the Palestinian Liberation Organization that decided to be more violent, more aggressive, more militant in their agitation for the liberation and freedom of the Palestinian people. Over the years, they've tried to use the political military formula in terms of trying to use politics to gain political strength within the Palestinian territorial enclaves. And when they fail politically, they try to be military. They try to be more aggressive using military tactics. The situation today is something that needs to come to an end. In fact, if it needs to come to an end, it needs to come to an end like yesterday.
I mean, let's talk about the past 24 hours, okay? I was about asking that in the last 24 hours, reports from both sides, including the mediator, which is Qatar, seems to show that a truce deal might actually be in sight. Now, do you see this actually, happening anytime soon?
I think the best opportunity is to ensure that whatever TRU deal that is about to be reached in the next 24, 48 hours needs to come to reality. Lives needs to stop to be lost. We need to protect human lives, irrespective of their political or religious affiliation. All I know is that Qatar is doing the best they can because they know that they don't need to infuse religion into the conflict in order to resolve the situation on ground. Life is very important. What Qatar is doing today is what I expect key players. One thing people need to understand that to resolve this issue, the United Nations, the offspring of the League of Nations, the League of Nations is architect to the greatest problem that Israel and Palestinians are facing today. Britain is part of the historic architecture of the crisis that is facing the entire Middle East today. Because at a point, the territorial entity called Palestinian or Palestine or the Gaza Strip or West Bank was once colonially controlled by Britain. And at a point, they decided to share these enclaves, this territorial landscape, without looking at the implication, without considering the impact of the judgment they were making as at 1946, 47, 48. Today, over almost 75 years, thousands and thousands of lives have been used to pay prices for the mistake of the Western politics, the Western misjudgments of over 75, 80 years ago. And
what do you suggest as a permanent solution to this particular crisis? Some have actually suggested a two-state system, that maybe if that happens, then we might just see an end to, of course, this constant conflict. I mean, you've given us a bit of background to how all of this has unfolded. What is the way forward? How do we ensure lasting peace, on the Gaza Strip?
The two-state solution needs to be reconsidered, but before that, you need to define who owns this land that is being the case. The problem today is about the land emancipation. It's about the enclosure, the enclosure called the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, the need that the request or the desire for Israel to expand into an area that is being debated over the years that doesn't actually belong to the Israelites or that doesn't really belong to the Palestinians, who really owns this particular territorial landscapes. So it is important because the two-state, one-nation agenda is being practiced in Hong Kong at the moment, and we're still seeing yet an incomplete resolution with the Hong Kong agenda with China. Yet, if we bring about the two-state, one-nation resolution between Israel and Palestine, then we need to define, they need to understand who controls the territorial landscape. How do we manage the ownership of the territorial landscape between Gaza and the West Bank and east of Jerusalem, west of Jerusalem? Who actually owns Jerusalem itself? Where does the line draw to an end? Because there is need for the truth to be told. The now extended League of Nations, United Nations, is playing a kind of geo-controlled political agenda with the issues that is happening in the Middle East, especially with the issues between Israel and Palestine, and also the role that the United States of America and Great Britain is playing is becoming so dangerous because there is a kind of a feeling of geo-religious alignment to it, which is very unfair. Even though that at the moment we see the likes of Qatar, who obviously would have aligned with the rest of the Arabs to say, look, you're killing our brothers. We can't take this from you. But they're trying to see, to really make an understanding, define the root of this problem and find a final resolution. The final solution to this is about understanding where the crisis started, who actually created this crisis. How do we bring everybody to the table, including Israel itself?
All right, Godson.
See, the Palestinians or the Hamas, it was not Palestinian, Hamas as a terrorist group needs to be understood in a way to deal with them. The way Israel wants to deal with them is not really to the best of humanity, because obviously most people from the observer's point of view knows that Hamas is using most innocent Palestinians as body shields. They are hiding in some of these critical locations using innocent Palestinians as a shield. And as such, the only way to get to the major Palestinian fighters or elements is that there must be a collateral damage.
All right, now talking about Hamas. All right, now talking about Hamas, before I let you go, now do you think that the return of hostages taken by Hamas would actually put an end or create some sort of, what I call it, peace or ceasefire in this present conflict? And is it just a ruse on the part of Israel, or has it vowed never to stop until Hamas is finally, expunged?
I don't think that the returning of the hostages. This is a trade by barter. This is a negotiation between terrorism. When you come to Africa, the Western world tells you don't need to negotiate with terrorists in order to make peace. But when it comes to a matter that affects the Western world, within the other geopolitical zones, they try to negotiate with terrorists in order to make peace. But the fact is that no matter how much arrangement or negotiation that is being done in order to get Hamas to release some of the Israelis hostages, and Israelis releasing some of the Hamas or Palestinian prisoners in Israel to them, an exchange of prisoners for peace will never work, because you find out that anywhere in the world where you have done such things, the original terrorists still remain and they still continue to carry out their action. They may take a break, but in another 6, 3, 4, 5 months time down the line, they come up with another strike, and that strike again leads to another retaliation, and that retaliation comes about another innocent lives dying, being used as body shields, body covers to sacrifice for certain human beings who do not see this as value. They don't see human life as value to existence, to the coexistence of humanity on earth. And so I think for the moment there is need to really get an understanding how to get this terrorist group called Hamas to disarm them, to dislocate them from existence within the territorial enclaves of the Middle East, entire Middle East, and that's the only way. The only way is to eliminate the existence, whether by getting rid of the entire
your contribution, Godson, and of course we sincerely appreciate
the influence of Hamas as a political or military resistance within the Gaza Strip or the West Bank. But at the same time, Israel has to also understand that we are all humans.
All right, Godson.
And for innocent people to pay price for a few is humanly unacceptable in a modern society.
All right, Godson, thank you once again for your time. We sincerely appreciate your analysis.
Thank you very much.